What if I told you the best towns in America aren't the ones you've heard of? Not New York, not LA, not Miami, not even the Instagram bait spots like Aspen or Jackson Hole. I'm talking about mountain towns, so remote, so bizarre, so jaw-dropping, you'll swear they were left off the map on purpose. Maybe to keep outsiders away. Maybe because no one in their right mind would choose to live where winter feels like a punishment from the gods. Wi-Fi is slower than dial-up, and your neighbor might literally be a moose. Or maybe, and here's the scary thought, it's because these places are too perfect. Towns where crime doesn't exist, where the air is so clean your lungs think you've been reborn, where property values should be in the millions but somehow aren't, yet. And once they get discovered, it's over. You'll be priced out before you can even rent an Airbnb. That's the speculation, right? That there are still hidden corners of America untouched by Starbucks, Target, and the HOA Karens of suburbia. But not for long. This video, this might ruin it. Because once you see what's out there, 20 mountain towns so wild, weird, and beautiful, you'll wonder how the hell you didn't know about them sooner. Number 1, Silverton, Colorado. Let's start where the air is thin and the vibes are thick. Silverton, Colorado. Population, barely 630 humans. That's almost 2 miles above sea level, meaning every grocery run is technically cardio. This town looks like someone froze the Wild West in a snow globe and then dropped it inside the San Juan Mountains. You've got historic saloons with swinging doors, narrow-gauge trains that look straight out of an old Clint Eastwood flick, and streets that turn into snowmobile highways 6 months a year. Median home price, around $400,000, which is bizarrely cheap considering your backyard is a literal mountain postcard. If you find anything under $1,200, buy a lottery ticket too, because it's your lucky day. The economy runs on tourism, mining history, and the occasional adrenaline junkie who thinks avalanche is a personality trait. But here's the catch. Winter here is no joke. Silverton gets over 150 inches of snow every year, with temperatures that drop to the kind of numbers you only see in your bank account after a night in Vegas. Forget DoorDash. Your delivery driver is a sled dog. Still, waking up to that skyline of peaks lit up like fire in the sunrise? Pure mountain magic, with a side of hypothermia. Number 2, Lake Placid, New York. The small town that literally hosted the Winter Olympics. Population? Just under 2,300, but don't let the size fool you, this place has more Olympic energy than most cities 10 times bigger. Nestled in the Adirondacks, Lake Placid is surrounded by mirror-like lakes, jagged peaks and trails that turn your Fitbit into a scream machine. Median home price? Around $450,000, which honestly feels low when you realize you're living in a town where people once raced bobsleds at 90 miles per hour for fun. Average rent runs between $1,100 and $1,400, depending on how close you want to be to the ski jumps. Crime rate? Practically non-existent, unless you count ski theft, which is basically the local version of grand larceny. But here's the flip side. Lake Placid's winters are brutal, with average January lows of 3 FF. That's not cold, that's refrigerator without a door cold. The economy leans hard on tourism, especially winter sports, so if you're not working in hospitality, coaching hockey, or guiding hikes, you'd better have a remote job. But imagine sipping hot chocolate while staring at Whiteface Mountain glowing under a pink sunset. Suddenly your frozen eyelashes don't seem so bad. At number 3, we're rolling west to Truckee, California, a town that proves mountain living doesn't have to mean giving up civilization. Roughly 17,000, which makes it one of the big mountain towns on this list. Located near Lake Tahoe, Truckee has everything: ski resorts, alpine lakes, high-end restaurants, and a historic downtown where every shop looks like it was built by a lumberjack with an architecture degree. Median home price, a whopping $1 million. Yeah, welcome to California. Rent averages $2,000 plus a month, and that's if you're okay sharing a driveway with a bear. Cost of living, roughly 60% higher than the US average, because apparently, mountain air comes with a surcharge. But here's the deal. Truckee has jobs, real jobs in tech, healthcare, and outdoor recreation. Crime is low, trails are endless, and the skiing? Forget about it. Snowfall here averages 200-300 inches per year. That's not weather, that's a personality disorder. You'll shovel your driveway so often you might add snow removal specialist to your resume. But stand on the shores of Donner Lake at sunrise, watching fog roll off the water while bald eagles circle overhead, and you'll think, yeah, worth it. Frozen toes and all. Number 4, Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Okay, let's head south to Gatlinburg, Tennessee, where the Smoky Mountains rise up like misty guardians and the town itself feels like an Appalachian fever dream. Population? About 3,700, but during peak tourist season it feels like 100,000. Gatlinburg is part mountain escape, part carnival, with moonshine tastings, Ripley's Believe It or Not museums, and an aquarium that's somehow one of the top rated in the US. But don't let the tourist trap vibes fool you. Step outside downtown and you're in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, with over 800 miles of trails and black bears that treat garbage cans like vending machines. Median home price? Over around $450,000, though cabins in the hills can soar into the millions thanks to the short-term rental boom. Rent runs $1,250,000 a month, but good luck finding something long-term. Cost of living is about 7% below the national average, which is shocking considering you can buy deep-fried Oreos on every corner. Winters are mild compared to Colorado, with average January temps around 25 to 30 flurry, but don't get comfortable, the summer humidity will choke you out faster than a WWE wrestler. Still, sitting on a cabin porch sipping whiskey while the mountains disappear into rolling fog? Number 5, Whitefish, Montana. Coming in strong at number 5 is Whitefish, Montana, a town that looks like it belongs on a postcard and somehow manages to outdo itself every season. Right at the edge of Glacier National Park, which is basically the Disney World of mountain landscapes. Median home price, $800,000 and rising fast, because apparently billionaires discovered this place during lockdown and never left. Rent averages $1,700 to $2,000 a month, which is insane considering the median household income here is around $75,000. Whitefish Mountain Resort brings in skiers all winter, while the summer is all about hiking, rafting, and spotting grizzlies like it's a competitive sport. Crime rate, almost non-existent unless you count moose trespassing. Snowfall averages 300 inches annually, meaning your snow shovel is your new best friend. But here's the thing, Whitefish has soul. The downtown is filled with quirky shops, coffee houses that double as art galleries, and live music that feels like Nashville got lost in the mountains. The sunsets over Whitefish Lake? Straight up biblical. Living here isn't cheap, but if you can afford it, you'll swear you found paradise until your pipes freeze and your neighbor casually mentions wolf sightings like it's normal. Number 6, Ouray, Colorado. Welcome to Ouray, Colorado, aka the Switzerland of America, except here your yodeling neighbors are more likely to be Jeep tour guides than dairy farmers. Population? Barely 1,000, but it feels like a national park disguised as a town. Tucked deep inside a box canyon at 7,792 feet, Ouray is surrounded by cliffs, so vertical you wonder if God was flexing his graphic design skills. Median home price, $650,000, which is almost laughable considering the scenery looks like it should cost $10 million a square foot. Rent, $1,550 to $100 a month, if you can actually find something not booked solid for tourists. Cost of living, 17% higher than the US froth's average, which basically means your sandwich comes with a $14 price tag, but hey, it also comes with a waterfall view, so call it a bargain. Tourism, guiding, hospitality. Unless you're coding remotely with snowshoes on, you'll be pouring lattes for ice climbers. Winters here, brutal, average snowfall 130 inches. You'll hike to hot springs, bathe under waterfalls, and casually meet a couple from Germany who came here just for the rocks. Ouray is magic, but it's also the kind of place where altitude sickness hits before your coffee order does. Number 7, Leavenworth, Washington. Alright, number 7, Leavenworth, Washington. A town that woke up one day in the 1960s, said let's just be Bavaria, and then committed harder than anyone thought possible. Today, this Cascade Mountain village is full-on alpine cosplay. Every building has gingerbread trim. There are lederhosen shops, bratwurst stands, and even a nutcracker museum with over 7,000 nutcrackers. Population, about 2,400, which means there are technically more nutcrackers than residents. Median home price, $730,000. Rent hovers around $1,600 to $2,000, but it spikes like crazy during Oktoberfest when the entire town basically turns into one giant beer tent. Cost of living, 21% higher than national average. Job market, seasonal and tourist-driven, think beer steins, accordion gigs, and guiding mountain hikes. Here's the weirdest part. Crime is virtually non-existent. This is the kind of place where the biggest police call of the week might be Goat on Main Street. The downside, tourists everywhere. Your quiet Wednesday afternoon will be interrupted by 400 people in journals, taking selfies with a pretzel mascot. But the backdrop, the Cascades, lit up like a movie set. Every sunrise looks photoshopped, and the snow here makes the whole town look like a gingerbread diorama. Leavenworth. It's weird, it's charming, and it's Bavarian to the core. Number 8, Cloudcroft, New Mexico. A town so high up, 8,676 feet above sea level, it literally lives in the clouds. Population, around 700. Translation, you'll know everyone's dog by name within a week. Median home price, $275,000. Basically a miracle for a mountain town with scenery this unreal. Rent ranges $900 a $1,000 a month, if you can find anything. Cost of living, below the national average, which means you can actually afford both your mortgage and your morning coffee. Crime rate, safer than 86% of towns in America. Here's the trade-off. Amenities are scarce. Forget Starbucks or Uber Eats. Want oat milk? They'll hand you black coffee and a blank stare. Job market, seasonal tourism, a few local shops, and maybe one or two openings at the diner. Winters, harsh and unpredictable. 1 minute it's sunny, the next you're in a snow globe. Internet, spotty at best, but imagine waking up, stepping onto your cabin porch and looking down at a sea of clouds floating below you. The air, crisp enough to exfoliate your lungs. Deer wander your yard like they own it. Silence so deep you can hear your own heartbeat. Cloudcroft is proof that sometimes paradise is small, remote, and full of pine trees. Number 9, Elie, Minnesota. Sliding into number 9 is Elie, Minnesota, the rugged northern edge of civilization. Population, about 3,200, but don't expect crowds. Expect moose, wolves, and lakes, so clear they look digitally rendered. Elie sits on the edge of the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness, which has over 1 million acres of lakes, forests, and trails. Translation, it's basically National Geographic in town form. Median home price, $200,000. Yes, cheaper than a parking spot in San Francisco. Rent, $750–950 per month. Cost of living, 16% below national average. Crime rate, almost non-existent. This is the kind of place where people leave doors unlocked, even when they shouldn't. Here's the kicker. Winters are brutal. Average January temperature, -5 FF. Wind chill, -30 VARs for worse. That's the kind of cold that makes your eyelashes freeze when you take out the trash. Job market, tourism, outdoor gear, guiding. If you're not into canoe rentals or selling flannel, bring a remote gig. But oh, the reward. Step outside your cabin at midnight and watch the northern lights dance across a frozen lake. You'll never think about Target runs the same way again. Elie is wild, it's peaceful, and it's cold enough to make you question every decision, but it's unforgettable. Number 10, Stanley, Idaho. And finally, number 10, Stanley, Idaho. Population? Less than 100. Yes, you read that right. More elk than humans, more stars than light bulbs. Tucked in the Sawtooth Mountains, Stanley is so jaw-dropping, it feels like a Photoshop project gone rogue. Median home price, around $395,000, if you can even find one on the market. Rent, $1,300, assuming you snag one of the 2 places available. Cost of living, about 8% below the U.S. average. Crime rate, basically zero. You're more likely to be attacked by a moose than mugged by a human. But here's the kicker. Stanley holds the record for being the coldest place in the lower 48, with temperatures hitting -54 FF. That's not put on a coat cold, that's your plumbing just filed for divorce cold. Tourism, guiding or remote work. No startups, no Starbucks, no DoorDash. The town closes early, not because of law but because no one cares if you want chips at 8:05 p.m. But picture it. Sunrise over the jagged Sawtooth skyline, steam rising from the river, silence so pure it feels sacred. A coyote trots by like it's late for work. Stanley is paradise with frostbite, and once you've seen it, you'll never forget it. Number 11, Bisbee, Arizona. Bisbee, Arizona is what happens when an old copper mining town gets hijacked by artists, musicians, and people who think Burning Man should last year-round. About 4,900, but it feels like 50,000 souls worth of eccentricity. This place clings to steep canyon walls at 5,500 feet, its houses stacked like colorful Legos left behind by a drunk architect. Median home price, around $240,000. Rent, $800. Cost of living, 17% below national average, which is shocking considering the art galleries charge $300 for paintings of cats in cowboy boots. Crime rate, relatively low, unless you count petty squabbles over parking on the 4,000 public staircases that serve as sidewalks. The economy runs on art, tourism, and ghost tours. Seriously, the Copper Queen Hotel is so haunted it should be charging admission. But living here isn't just quirky fun, it's exercise. Every errand involves climbing stairs that feel like boot camp. Plus, the locals will absolutely judge your aura if you buy the wrong kind of incense. Still, imagine sipping coffee on a balcony while murals splash color across adobe walls. Live jazz drifts out of a vinyl shop, and a rooster crows from some random rooftop. Bisbee is a fever dream you can actually afford. Number 12, Homer, Alaska. Now we're sailing north to Homer, Alaska, nicknamed the end of the road. Why? Because the highway literally stops here, and beyond that it's nothing but wilderness, glaciers, and the Pacific Ocean. Population, roughly 5,700, but it feels like a whole planet packed into one tiny town. The view, absolutely unmatched. Glaciers, volcanoes, and bald eagles soaring like it's their personal air show. Median home price, about $350,000. Rent, $1,400 depending on whether your cabin comes with running water or just character. Cost of living, 30% above the national average because everything gets shipped in by boat or plane. Jobs, fishing, tourism, art and hustling smoked salmon on the side. Crime, low unless you count crimes against fashion during winter layering. Here's the catch. Winters here are brutal with long nights that stretch your sanity and summers so bright you forget what darkness is. The town vibe, fishermen rubbing elbows with poets, crabbers trading stories with painters. Imagine sipping coffee while the ocean slaps the Homer spit and sea otters drift by like they're judging your life choices. Homer is paradise, but it's also isolation therapy with halibut. Number 13, Telluride, Colorado. Telluride isn't just a mountain town, it's a lifestyle flex. Nestled in a box canyon at 8,750 feet, it's like the James Bond of ski resorts, rich, rugged, and effortlessly cool. Around $2,500. Median home price, a staggering $1.7 million. Rent, $2,500 on Fex installer, but good luck affording that unless you own stock in Patagonia. Cost of living, 57% above the national average. But here's the thing, you're not just buying a house, you're buying a gondola commute. Yes, Telluride has a free gondola that doubles as public transportation. Crime rate, almost non-existent, probably because everyone's too busy skiing or attending film festivals. Tourism, hospitality, real estate, or being a barista for billionaires. But beware, the altitude doesn't care if you're rich. You'll huff and puff climbing stairs to buy a $7 drip coffee. And yes, the weather changes faster than your group chat. Snow, sun, thunder, repeat. Still, picture sunrise hitting 13,000-foot peaks, waterfalls pouring beside your commute, and skiing straight into town like it's normal. Telluride is heaven on earth, but only if your wallet is built for high altitude. Number 14, Taos, New Mexico. At number 14, we've got Taos, New Mexico, a spiritual, artsy, chaotic blend of ancient Pueblo culture, bohemian wanderers, and ski bums with questionable Wi-Fi. Population, about 6,500, though the energy here feels centuries deep. The Taos Pueblo, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, has been continuously inhabited for over 1,000 years. Try finding that kind of history in Aspen. Median home price, around $370,000. Rent, $1,200 Taos, $1,600. Crime, moderate. Let's just say bad vibes exist, but don't ruin the zen. Tourism, art, small businesses, remote work, or selling dream catchers next to green chili burritos. Taos is one of the only towns where your barista can double as a Reiki healer and property tax advisor in the same conversation. Driving here is chaos, lanes are suggestions, speed limits are vibes, and parking downtown requires divine intervention. But the sunsets, imagine the Sangre de Cristo Mountains glowing red under desert skies while a flute plays from some rooftop you can't quite see. Taos is magical, messy, and unforgettable, equal parts ancient spirit and hipster chaos. Number 15, Crested Butte, Colorado. Crested Butte, Colorado looks like someone designed a postcard and then accidentally made it real. Population, about 1,700, though in ski season it feels like the entire state of Texas moved in. Sitting at 885 feet, it's remote, colorful, and stunning enough to make you forget your student loans for about 5 minutes. Median home price, $1.2 million. Rent, $2,000. Cost of living, brutal, 57% above the U.S. average. Crime rate, basically non-existent, unless you count ski lift line cutting as a felony. Jobs, tourism, hospitality, and mountain guiding. Forget corporate gigs, you'll be pouring cocktails for Texans in cowboy hats who think Powder Day is an official holiday. But here's the kicker. Crested Butte gets real snow. Average, 217 inches a year. Translation, you'll shovel your roof before you shovel your driveway. The vibe, playful, artsy and colorful. Victorian storefronts painted in every shade of the rainbow, festivals every other weekend, and trails that lead directly from town into the wilderness. Imagine walking out your front door and stepping right into fields of wildflowers or waist-deep powder. Crested Butte is paradise, if your wallet and lungs can handle it. Number 16, Stowe, Vermont. Stowe, Vermont is the kind of place that makes every snow globe jealous. Just over 5,000, but it feels like a winter kingdom handcrafted by Norman Rockwell with a maple syrup addiction. Median home price, around $550,000. Rent, $1,500 to $2,000 a month, mostly seasonal since half the town turns into ski rentals during winter. Cost of living, about 22% above the U.S. average. But here's what you get. Stowe Mountain Resort, world-class slopes, endless hiking trails and fall foliage so bright it looks like the trees are on fire in a good way. Crime rate, almost zero. tourism, hospitality, maple farming, or selling overpriced flannel to New Yorkers. Old churches, covered bridges, and breweries that make you believe beer should be its own food group. But don't let the charm fool you. Winters are long, icy, and full of tourists who think driving in snow is a personality trait. Still, picture sipping hot cider while snowflakes float past 200-year-old inns. Stowe is like living in a Hallmark movie but with real frostbite and mortgage payments. Number 17, McCall, Idaho. At number 17, we're hitting McCall, Idaho, a town that feels like Lake Tahoe's chill younger cousin. Population, around 3,500. Location, on the edge of Payette Lake, surrounded by thick pines and the Salmon River Mountains. Median home price, $615,000. Rent, $1,500 lots a month. Cost of living, about 15% above the national average. McCall gets buried in snow, averaging 132 inches annually. But come summer, the place explodes with boating, hiking, and a winter carnival featuring giant snow sculptures. Tourism, forestry, and the occasional remote gig. So low you're more likely to be chased by a goose than mugged by a human. The catch: Boise is 2 hours away, and in winter that drive feels like a reality TV survival challenge. But here's the upside. You've got endless trails, hot springs tucked into the forest, and a lake that looks so perfect you'll assume it was photoshopped. Imagine watching fireworks reflect off the ice during the winter carnival while sipping cocoa in a parka rated for Arctic expeditions. McCall is equal parts cozy and wild, and it'll make you forget the rest of Idaho exists. Number 18, Ketchum, Idaho. Yes, Idaho again, because apparently this state hoards underrated mountain towns. Number 18 is Ketchum, which shares DNA with Sun Valley but keeps its own personality. Population, roughly 3,600. Median home price, $1 million. Rent, $2,000 and up, basically Aspen-light prices. Cost of living, 54% above the U.S. average. Here's why. Celebrities. Hemingway lived here. Tom Hanks owns property, and every third person you bump into seems like they're between projects. Job market, tourism, hospitality, outdoor gear, and catering to wealthy skiers. Crime, low, but parking tickets are apparently a local sport. The upside, Ketchum has ski runs, galleries, restaurants, and a surprisingly cool local vibe. The downside, if you don't have a trust fund, you'll be budgeting harder than a college freshman. But stand on Bald Mountain at sunrise, look down on a town glowing golden in the snow, and suddenly you'll forget that your rent costs more than your car. Ketchum is high-end, high-altitude, and high-priced, but the mountain energy is undeniable. Number 19, Leadville, Colorado. Now we're cranking the altitude to insane levels. Leadville, Colorado, the highest incorporated city in America. Elevation, 10,152 feet. Around 2,600. This place once boomed with silver mining, but now it's a mix of rugged history and mountain grit. Median home price, $425,000. Rent, $1,200. Low, though the real danger is altitude sickness. At this elevation, even walking your dog feels like a CrossFit class. Snowfall averages 156 inches, and temps have dropped below -41 feet. Job market, tourism, history museums, and serving hikers who think conquering 14,000-foot peaks is a fun hobby. But here's the charm. Leadville is colorful, authentic, and unapologetically old school. Main Street is lined with Victorian storefronts that look like they've been frozen in time. Imagine stepping outside, lungs burning from thin air, as snow sparkles across rooftops painted red, green, and gold. Leadville is rough around the edges, but it's real mountain life with no filter. Number 20, Aspen, Colorado. And finally, number 20, Aspen, Colorado. The cliché, the legend, the overpriced snow globe you secretly want to live in. Just over 6,600, but the money flowing through here could finance a small country. Median home price, a jaw-dropping $2.8 million. Rent, $3,500, $5,000 a month, unless you're okay with sleeping in your car, which many seasonal workers do. Cost of living, 84% higher than the U.S. average. Job market, tourism, luxury hospitality, and catering to billionaires who treat Aspen like their personal playground. Practically zero, probably because anyone shady can't afford to be here. But Aspen isn't just about the rich and famous. It's stunning. Surrounded by the Elk Mountains, you get world-class skiing, jaw-dropping autumn foliage, and summers filled with festivals, hiking, and enough champagne brunches to float a yacht. The downside, it's eye-wateringly expensive, packed with tourists, and you'll constantly question why a burger costs $30. The upside, it's Aspen. You wake up to the maroon bells glowing pink at sunrise, ski down legendary slopes, and maybe spot a celebrity in line at Whole Foods. Aspen is fantasy turned reality, if you can afford the ticket price.